listed the dresser because I needed it gone before my roommate moved out. It was one of those tall, dark brown dressers that looked better in pictures than in person. My aunt had given it to me when I first moved into my apartment, and it had been useful for a while, but one of the drawers stuck, another sat crooked, and it took up too much space in my room. My roommate and I had both decided not to renew our lease, so by the end of the month, we were trying to sell whatever we didn't want to drag into separate places. I put it on Facebook Marketplace on a Wednesday afternoon. The listing was simple. 5-drawer dresser, solid wood, some wear, must pick up. I posted 4 photos from different angles in my bedroom, with the blinds down behind it because the lighting was better there. Within 20 minutes, I had a message from an account named Lauren Kim. "Is this still available?" I replied yes. She asked for the measurements, whether I could hold it until Friday, and whether there were stairs involved. I told her it was on the 2nd floor of a duplex-style apartment, and that she would need help carrying it because I couldn't move it alone. She responded almost immediately. "My husband can carry it. What time are you usually home?" I answered carefully and said I'd be around after 6 on Friday, but I'd prefer pickup before dark. She wrote back, "Perfect, we'll come at 6:15. Then, before I could close the conversation, she sent one more message. "Can you send a picture from farther back so I can see the full height against the wall?" I almost ignored that because I had already included a wide photo. But I was trying to get rid of the dresser quickly, so I went back upstairs and took another picture from the hallway outside my room. From that angle, the bedroom door frame was visible. Part of the upstairs landing was visible, and in the mirror attached to the dresser, you could see a narrow slice of the stairwell going down to the front door. I sent it without thinking. Friday came, and at 5:40, my roommate texted me that she was getting dinner with coworkers and would be late. I told her fine. It wasn't ideal, but I'd done plenty of marketplace pickups alone before. At 6:02, I got a message from Lauren. "Running a little early. Husband is with me. Is that okay?" I said yes. Then another message came. "Blue pickup truck." I looked out my front window a minute later and saw a blue pickup parked across the street with the engine running. A man got out from the passenger side. No woman. He was maybe late 30s, work boots, gray hoodie, baseball cap. He looked up at the house once before walking to the front steps. I opened the door, but stayed inside the screen. "Marketplace?" I asked. He nodded and said, "Lauren sent me." I asked where she was. He jerked a thumb back toward the truck and said, "On the phone." I glanced toward the windshield, but the glare from the evening sun made it hard to see inside. I could just make out a shape in the driver's seat with a phone up by one side of the face. That was enough for me to let him in. I led him upstairs to the bedroom, and the first thing he did was not look at the dresser. He looked down the hall toward my roommate's room, then at the bathroom door, then toward the landing. Then he looked at the dresser and said, "Yeah, this is fine." He tested one drawer, not the stuck one, and asked if I had anyone to help carry it down. I said no, like I'd already told Lauren in the messages. He nodded and said, "I can probably do most of it if you steady the bottom." That felt wrong immediately. The dresser was heavy enough that if anything went bad on the stairs, I'd be trapped beneath it or forced to turn my back the whole way down. I said I'd rather wait until my roommate got home. He looked mildly annoyed. Then he asked, "Can I at least see the way down?" I said no, before I had even fully thought about it. For a second, we just stood there. Then he shrugged and said, "All right, I'll grab my gloves from the truck." He went downstairs, and I followed just far enough to lock the front door the second he stepped outside. That was when my phone buzzed. A new message from Lauren, on our way, running late. I read it twice. Then I looked through the blinds. The blue pickup was still there. The man who had just been upstairs was leaning down by the driver's window, talking to someone inside, but no one had gotten in or out. I sent back, "Who was just in my house?" No answer. The truck stayed there for maybe another 30 seconds before pulling away. The next morning, another marketplace message came in from a different account named Brian S. "Still available? Can pick up today. Need to know if staircase is straight or turns at the bottom." I didn't answer. I clicked the profile. Brand new account, no profile picture. I blocked it. 10 minutes later, another account messaged, "Can my brother load alone? He saw it yesterday." That made my whole body go cold. I blocked that one too. Then I went back to my original chat with Lauren and noticed something I should have caught sooner. Her profile had changed. The smiling profile photo from earlier was gone, replaced with a blank gray silhouette. I reported the account and called my older brother to come by that evening. While I waited, I checked the outside of the house and found something on the side porch by the trash bins. One black work glove tucked under the railing, where nobody would accidentally leave it. My brother came around 7, and I showed him the glove and the messages. He checked the marketplace accounts and said what I already suspected. They weren't trying that hard to buy the dresser. He was right. No negotiating, no checking the bad drawer. Just questions about who was home, how the stairs worked, and whether someone else would be there. That night, he stayed over. At 11:26, headlights swept across my bedroom wall. A vehicle stopped in front of the house without pulling fully to the curb. My brother looked through the blinds first and said it was the same blue pickup. The engine stayed running. No one got out. Then, after maybe 20 seconds, the truck rolled slowly forward to the alley beside the house. We killed the upstairs lights and listened. A car door shut, then another. At the side of the house, near the narrow gate that led to the back stairs. That gate was visible in the last photo I'd sent from the hallway mirror. My brother went downstairs immediately and turned on the kitchen light, then the back porch light, then banged hard on the inside of the side door, like he was bigger and angrier than he actually is. The footsteps stopped. A second later, we heard the gate hit the fence as someone shoved back through it. The truck left so fast it sprayed gravel into the alley. I took the dresser off Marketplace the next morning and ended up giving it to my cousin for free. What worried me was how easy it had been to hand over the layout of the house without realizing I was doing it. One extra photo from the hallway, one mention that I'd be home after 6, one message saying my roommate was out. None of that felt dangerous while I sent it. But they weren't buying a dresser, they were checking whether getting upstairs would be as easy the second time as it had been the first. I listed the camera because I needed the money more than I needed the camera. It was a Canon DSLR I'd bought during my first year of community college when I still thought I might switch into photography. By the time this happened, I barely used it. I was working mornings at a tire shop and taking classes at night, and the camera had been sitting in its case under my bed for almost 6 months. Tuition was coming due, my car needed brakes, and selling it felt like the easiest way to cover both. So I put it on Facebook Marketplace. I took photos of the body, the 2 lenses, the charger, and the padded case. Then wrote a basic description. Canon DSLR bundle, good condition. Includes 50mm lens and kit lens, no trades. I priced it a little high, expecting to negotiate down. The first serious message came that same night from an account named Samantha Cole. Her profile looked normal enough. Family photo, some public posts from a few years back. Nothing that immediately screamed fake. She asked sensible questions too. Shutter count. Whether the battery still held a charge, whether the autofocus worked on both lenses. She knew enough camera terms that I assumed she either used one herself or was buying for someone who did. After maybe 15 minutes of back and forth, she said, "I want it. My husband can meet tomorrow because I'll still be at work." That wasn't unusual. Plenty of people sent someone else for Marketplace pickups. What she suggested next was what I should have paid more attention to. "Can you meet at the Speedway on Road 8 by the interstate? He gets off there around 7. I didn't love the timing because it would be dark by then, but the gas station was always busy and bright, so I said yes. She agreed to my asking price without trying to negotiate, which should have been another red flag, and then sent one final message. "He'll be in a black pickup. Please hold it." The next day I left work, went home, charged the battery, and packed everything into the case. I almost brought my younger brother with me, but he was out with friends, and I told myself I was being dramatic. It was a camera sale at a gas station, not some back road meetup. I got there 10 minutes early and parked under the lights near Pump 6. The place was busy enough to make me feel better immediately. 2 trucks on the diesel side, a family minivan at the pumps, people going in and out of the store. At 7:04, a black pickup pulled into the lot and stopped 1 row over from me. 2 men were in it. That was the first thing that felt off. The passenger got out first, mid-30s maybe, thick jacket, baseball cap. The driver stayed inside with the engine running. The man who got out looked at me, then at the camera case on my passenger seat and walked over. "You the camera guy?" he asked. I said yes. He nodded once and said, "My wife messaged you. I asked if she was coming too." He said no, she was finishing a shift at the hospital. That answer fit well enough that I let it go. I took the case out and set it on my hood. He unzipped it, picked up the camera, and started checking buttons without saying much. He definitely knew what he was looking at. That made me relax a little. Then he asked, "Mind if I sit in the truck and test the screen? Hard to see under these lights." I said I'd rather just keep it out here. He smiled in that tight, polite way people do when they're annoyed but trying not to show it. Just for a minute, I told him no again. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then he shrugged and kept looking over the camera outside. A minute later, the driver got out too. He was bigger, older, and didn't come over to help inspect the camera. He just stood near the back of the truck with his hands in his pockets, looking across the lot like he was waiting for something. The first guy mounted the 50mm lens, pointed the camera toward the store, and said, "Do you have an SD card in this?" I told him no. I had wiped everything before bringing it. He looked up and said, "So I can't actually test it then?" That wasn't true, and he knew it. You can test focus, menus, shutter, and sensor response without a card. I told him he'd already done half of that. He handed the camera back more abruptly than necessary and said, "I'm gonna be honest, man, my wife's probably not gonna want it without testing photos." I said that was fine. Then he asked, "Where you stay at? Maybe I can swing by tomorrow when she's home." I said no immediately. He smiled again and said, "Worth asking." Then both men got back in the truck and left. I stood there for a few seconds watching their taillights pull toward the interstate, feeling stupid for being as unsettled as I was. The whole interaction had been weird, but not weird enough to explain clearly. At 8:11, Samantha messaged me. "Sorry, my husband said the lot was too bright to test properly. Can you meet tomorrow somewhere quieter?" I didn't answer. A minute later, another message came. "Maybe the back of the Walmart lot near the cart return?" That was when I blocked the account. The next day, a new marketplace message came from an account named Eric Moran. "Still got the Canon bundle?" No profile picture this time. Brand new account. I said yes, mostly to see where it would go. The response came almost instantly. "Can you do 650 cash? Same gas station works." I had never publicly lowered the price to 650, but that was exactly what the first man had muttered to the driver while he thought I couldn't hear them. I blocked that account too. Then another message came an hour later from a third account. "Blue Honda, right? I can meet by your work instead." I stared at that one for a long time. I drove a blue Honda. My work was never mentioned in the listing, but the tire shop logo was faintly visible in the reflection of one of the lens photos if you zoomed in enough. That was the moment it stopped feeling like annoying marketplace behavior and started feeling targeted. I took the listing down immediately. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then on Sunday night, after a late class, I turned onto my street and saw the black pickup parked halfway down the block with the lights off. I kept driving. I went around the block once, then parked on the next street over and walked back from the opposite direction. By the time I got home, the truck was gone. I didn't tell my mother because she would have insisted I stop selling anything online altogether. And I didn't tell my friends because I knew how it would sound. What made me finally take it seriously was the note. It was tucked under my windshield wiper in the student lot behind my night class building 3 evenings later. No envelope. Just a folded receipt paper from Speedway. On the blank side, in black pen, were 6 words. "Bring the camera alone next time." I never listed it again. I sold the camera 3 months later to the uncle of one of my coworkers for less money than I wanted. But at least I knew exactly who he was. A profile that seemed real, a bright gas station. A husband sent in place of a wife. Questions that sounded like camera questions until they turned into location questions. They never really wanted to test the camera. They wanted to test me first. I listed the arcade cabinet because my uncle needed the restaurant emptied before the end of the month. He had owned Marino's Pizza for almost 20 years, but by the time this happened, he was finally giving up on it. The lunch crowd had disappeared after a road project rerouted traffic. The landlord kept raising rent, and my uncle had reached the point where every conversation turned into some version of, "I'm too old to fight this place anymore." The final week was mostly cleanup. Booths had already been sold, the walk-in was nearly empty, and half the dining room lights were unscrewed to save on the electric bill. I was helping after my shifts at a grocery store, hauling boxes and putting whatever stuff still had value on Facebook Marketplace. One of those things was the Golden Tee arcade cabinet in the back game alcove. It still worked. Monitor a little dim but fine once it warmed up. My uncle wanted it gone because it was too heavy to move into storage and too obvious to leave behind. I cleaned the dust off the screen, plugged it in long enough to show it booting, and posted it for $400. The listing said exactly where it was. Pickup from former restaurant downtown. Rear service entrance only. Bring help. The first serious message came from an account named Megan Parker about 15 minutes later. Her profile had a dog in the picture and not much else public. She asked the usual things first. Did the controls all work? Were there any dead pixels? Could I send a picture of the coin door open? I did. Then the question shifted. Can you still get a dolly through the kitchen from the alley? I said yes. Are there any steps at the back entrance? I said one short concrete lip, nothing major. Would anybody else be there when it's picked up? That was the first thing that bothered me. I told her probably my uncle too, depending on time. She replied almost immediately. I get off late. Earliest I could come is 8 o'clock tomorrow. Would he still be there? I said probably not. Then I added that I could always do the pickup during daylight. She said 8 o'clock would be perfect. That next night my uncle did stay later than usual, mostly because I told him the buyer seemed oddly fixated on whether anyone else would be there. He shrugged it off and said, "People ask dumb questions online when they don't know how to lift something." At 7:55, I got a message from Megan. Blue van, 5 minutes away. We waited until 8:20. No van. At 8:24, another message came. Got turned around by the one-way streets. Is the alley behind the place the one with the dumpsters or the one with the loading dock? There was no loading dock. Only the alley with the dumpsters behind our building and the florist next door. I replied that it was the dumpster alley and asked where she was coming from. No answer. At 8:31, the back service door handle moved. Just once, then again. Not a knock. Someone testing whether it was locked. My uncle and I both heard it from the kitchen. He stepped over, looked through the wired glass window, and said he couldn't see anyone. By the time he yanked it open, the alley was empty from end to end. No blue van, nothing. He shut the door and slid the bolt across. Then he looked at me and said, "Take that listing down." I didn't, which I know sounds stupid now. But $400 was $400, and the person could still have been weird without being dangerous. I told myself maybe she had sent someone to check the alley and then gotten spooked seeing two of us there. The next morning, a different account messaged me. Still available? The name was Andrew Cole, brand new profile, no picture. I said yes. The reply came back in under a minute. Can you confirm if the back door opens inward or outward? Hard to tell from the kitchen photo. I had never posted a kitchen photo. The only way to know there was a window in that door, or the direction it might swing, was to have physically been there. I blocked the account immediately. Then another one messaged that afternoon. Can you send a photo from farther back so I can see the path from the game to the alley? I blocked that one too. By then, I'd finally accepted that nobody was really trying to buy the cabinet. They were trying to learn the building. I took the listing down. 2 quiet days passed after that. Saturday afternoon, my uncle asked me to meet him at the restaurant after closing so we could box up records from the office. When I got there just after 6, he was already irritated because one of the back gates in the alley had been unlatched. Not broken. Unlatched. He was sure he'd locked it the day before. He muttered about kids cutting through downtown alleys and went inside. The restaurant felt emptier than it had all week. No booth cushions, no frame photos on the walls, no music from the kitchen radio. Just the hum of the soda cooler and the faint whine from the Golden Tee cabinet in the back because someone had turned it on. I knew it hadn't been on the previous night. My uncle knew too. The attract screen was cycling through a demo round, and at the top of the leaderboard, someone had entered a new name. MEGAN. My uncle looked at it, then at me, and said, "That's enough. We're unplugging this thing now." While he went to grab dolly straps from the office, I bent behind the cabinet to pull the plug. Taped to the back vent with clear packing tape was a folded receipt. I peeled it off and opened it. 5 words, written in block letters. Better when the front is dark. I had enough time to process that before the open sign in the front window clicked off. Not the neon sign itself, the breaker to the whole front dining room. Half the restaurant dropped into shadow. My uncle shouted from the office, asking if I'd touched anything. Then the back service door hit its frame hard enough to shake the pans hanging on the prep wall. Someone was outside, pushing on it, once, twice. Then came the metallic scrape of something trying to work around the bolt. My uncle came out of the office carrying the straps in one hand and the flashlight in the other. He didn't ask questions this time. He just said, "Front, now." We went through the dining room because the front entrance opened to the street, and a bar next door stayed busy until midnight. As we passed the windows, I looked toward the alley and saw headlights splashed against the opposite brick wall. A van had backed in with the lights off, close enough that whoever was inside had a straight shot to the service door. The front door to the restaurant was unlocked. We stepped onto the sidewalk, pulled it shut behind us, and went straight into the bar. My uncle knew the bartender. He told him in about 10 seconds that someone was at our back entrance and that we needed to stay where people could see us. When we looked back through the bar's side window into the alley mouth, the van was already pulling out. Fast. Too fast for someone who had just gotten confused about directions. My uncle never put the cabinet back online after that. We left it unplugged, shoved a prep table in front of the kitchen hall, and moved the office records out the next morning in full daylight with 2 of his friends there. Nothing was stolen. Whoever kept messaging about the cabinet never actually wanted the cabinet. They wanted the alley, the door swing, the path through the kitchen, and the answer to whether